we're trying this one again. I started this video and it just wasn't going extremely well. But, so, hi, welcome back. I'm Eric. Welcome back to the Indie Lit Forum. And today we are going to be talking about, there we go, Gamer for Life, Book 1 in the Alpha World series by Daniel Schinhofen. I'm going to be talking about mostly the first book, but also a little bit about the series as a whole. Because definitely a series worth getting into, especially if you like lit RPG. Like, it's not the, it's not the stattiest lit RPG out there. I can think of a couple others that definitely delve a lot more into that. I would say, but it's not really lit RPG light. Like, it's, it's got a very well-developed system. It mostly focuses on the skills that characters can gain at certain levels, and it really does also delve into equipment a lot. Like, there is that very much the loot drop of, oh, what did they get this time? What did they get this time? But anyway, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. This first book, and really the entire series, follows our protagonist, Seamus Masterson. At the beginning of the first book, he is a prisoner, and he gets selected for a program by Mind Blown Entertainment, the company behind the hottest new thing, a full dive virtual MMO RPG thing. And he's selected as the first long-term test subject. Basically, they're like, hey, sign this paperwork and we're putting you in this game probably for the rest of your life. And he's serving a life sentence, and he's like, yeah, sure. He's in some ways kind of punishing himself, but I want to get too much into that because I'll get into that a little bit. Like, because this book does revolve, the crime that he committed to wind up in prison is very much essential to how the series itself plays out. In the first couple of books, like, it's talked about, and, it's there, and, you slowly but surely kind of learn more and more about it, though, as the series goes on. And as the series goes on, like, you learn things that, as you learn them, it puts what happened in the earlier books in perspective, and it's really like, wow. Like, there were a lot of things in this series that I just did not see coming, and when they came, it was just like, ooh, mind blown. So, mind blown. See what I did there? Wasn't intentional. But, the first book also introduces us to several other characters, pretty much the party that he winds up playing the game with. You have Fluffball, who is the person behind Fluffball is named Julia. I forget the last name. It's not on the top of my head right now. It's like Eastern European kind of, and it just, one of those names doesn't just stick in my mind extremely well. And she's a artist, very fragile soul, and like delving into her backstory is also a big part of the series as well, and it's very tragic and sad, and just, you're like, oh, you need a hug, girl, I am so sorry. And, but Fluffball, she's a fierce Lumari warrior, and Lumari are like a, cat race, within the game, and she becomes berserker, pretty much, and really, when you learn more about her life, you kind of understand why a little bit. You also have Karen, who is just really great. I love her. I do. I mean, I wish she really existed. Uh, Same name in real life and in the game, and pretty much there's not a lot of separation between who she is in real life and who she is in the game. In the game, she's an ass kicking rogue, and in some ways, that's what she is in real life. So, that's. Karen is, I think, a very interesting character in that who she chooses to be online and who she is in real life, unlike most everybody else, it's exactly the same. Although, I guess that, well, except for, well, Gerald and Mary Sue. They're the two that round out the party. They're the tank and healer, pretty much. Gerald's the tank, Mary Sue's the healer, and Gerald's primary objective is to protect Mary Sue, and Mary Sue's primary objective, well, other than having fun, is to heal Gerald, and in some ways that's very much who they are in real life, but there's more about who, like all five of the main characters do have like relatively interesting backstories. You dive into Seamus, Karen, and Fluffball a lot more because they're just they become kind of they're the better part of the core group of the story. There's one other person that is the part of the core group, but she's not actually a player, and that is Stacia. She is an NPC, which is one of the really neat things that they do, or that Daniel does with this series. Like, the NPCs in the game are so real and so alive, and the world itself is so alive, and it's just the idea of playing a game like that is just fascinating. I would totally play that. I would get lost in that. I would never get anything done again. Like, if they came out with that game today, then this channel would just be dead because I wouldn't have time. I'd be playing that game. It'd be just too fascinating. Because, each NPC has its own story. There's actually a really great illustration of that is there's a guard that Seamus, playing as this character Albert, runs into early on in the game that doesn't like the class of character that he's playing. And there's like a confrontation there, and there's back and forth. But the guard himself winds up becoming a rather, important minor character. And there's so much to his story that builds into different parts of the larger story. And it just shows how even the NPCs, they are just as important to the story as the player. And it's a very interesting concept for a, stuck in a game world kind of thing. Where, I think, other authors have tried to do this as well. But I feel like in Alpha World, he just did a phenomenal job with that. And that being, what else should I say about that? There's like really great action sequences throughout the story, like as they're going through clearing the game, like it is done really well. You can tell the guy has put in some time on some of these games, and like how the party has to come together and work together as a team to clear some of these, especially like the big boss fights, is it's great stuff. It's really good reading. Like, it really draws you in. Like, every time I pick up one of these books, I just get sucked in, and the next thing I know, I'm halfway through the second, and it's like, oh no, I had stuff I was supposed to do today. Oh well, I still had a great time, and I really hope I'm doing this series justice. Like I said, I'm mostly talking about the first book, but here's where I'm going to talk about the rest of the series as a whole a little bit. because what really I think helps to bring this series, a little bit above, the rank and file that it might be lumped into, is the fact that the game world is used by these people to work through like some very real problems from their actual lives. Primarily with Julia and Seamus, like some mechanics within how the game works allows them to take trips into their own memories and psyches and helps them heal some very real personal traumas. And it's a very critical part of some of the later books in the series. And like diving into that like makes these characters feel so real and so relatable and so much like, just people that you might want to know or just feel really, really bad for. At the same time, like, they heal and they find, new family and with themselves. And it's just really great. It's very harem-y, it's not as harem-y as some. It's not as harem. But, like, there's definitely, like, a polyamorous relationship kind of thing that builds within the books. I'm trying not to spoil anything that might seem obvious, to anyone reading it, but still, trying to avoid spoiling anything too crazy. But there's, very much there's the sense of broken people finding their family, outside of their actual family, which I honestly think happens a lot in Daniel Schinhofen's books. I keep wanting to just call him Daniel because I have so much trouble saying his last name. I am sorry. But anyway, and I'm running a little long here. I feel like I could keep talking about these, just the first book, but the series in general, forever. But I guess I just want to wrap up with, read the series. Read the whole series. Like, the final book has such great payoffs on so many things that were set up in the very first book. Like, you get a very real sense that when he started writing the first book, he had an idea of where the entire thing was going to end. I mean, I'm sure there were some things that changed along the way as he was going through the adventure of writing it. But at the same time, it is a series that feels like it had a very clear vision of what it was trying to do from beginning to end, and it really shows especially in the final book. The final book has just such great payoffs, and I can't recommend the series enough unless it is to recommend some of his other ones. But really, you should start off with this one. And I think I've said enough. I'm running a lot longer than I really meant to, but there's a lot to say, and I hope I said it, at least halfway well enough. But anyway, thank you once again for watching, especially if you made it this far. Thank you very much, and if you like what I'm doing, as usual, like, subscribe, leave me a comment. I definitely like the comments. It makes me feel like I'm actually maybe doing something at least halfway worthwhile. But with that being said, thank you for watching, and you have a good evening.